Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sam Spade from the Midnight Devils, and you're listening to In Obscuria Podcast, where we always keep it real, real hard. How hard, you say? So hard, it hurts.
In Obscuria.
Welcome back, my friends, to the In Obscuria Podcast, a podcast where we exhume obscure rock and punk and metal. And we put them in one of three categories: the lost, the forgotten, or the should-have-beens. I am Ronnie James Dio. No, that's not right. I am Kevin Williams. That is Ronnie James DOG's owner, Robert.
Ronnie James Dio Dad.
Ronnie James D.O.G.
I'm a Dio Dad.
Dio Dad.
Yeah, hang on a second. I deserve something. Yes, I deserve that. I work today.
Yeah. Cheers across the table. There are clinkies.
Mowed like an acre of grass and a couple hours of Robert stuff. So I'm prepared to have a beer now and do a podcast.
Well, very good.
Nice and relaxing evening.
Absolutely. And maybe you should tell the people what else you've been up to. Anything?
Nah.
No stories?
Nothing?
Nothing went on in the past week.
You tell us, man. Have you had that parent concert yet?
I thought we weren't going to bring that up.
Oh, no. No. I kept the slate open. The calendar has been wide open so we can focus solely on you today.
When last we left,
nobody
our
cares about what
brave
I do.
hero, he had mentioned how the first rehearsal went very, very bad.
Yes.
And we didn't even make it through half a song. Well, the event was last night.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
And I will have you know we got through all three songs.
So which songs?
Okay, so we started off with a little "We Will Rock You." Now, mind you, this is a performance at my kids' school, so this is for the middle schoolers. They have a battle of the bands, and while they're tallying up the votes, the parents' band gets up and plays, and then they have the faculty band who plays while they're doing that work.
Kind of a distraction while the judges are...
Exactly. Yeah, so we started off a little "We Will Rock You."
Doom.
Yeah. Super easy. We didn't fuck that one up. Although I will say the vocals weren't so great. Well,
rock y'all.
I could bring up on the old phone. I've got video.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know if I really want to do that.
Insert a snippet right here. Just
do I have to?
Yes, you do.
Oh God,
yeah, you do.
Remember,
I embarrass myself every week. Come on.
Remember, I am only playing the drums. I agreed to play the drums, and then I was notified that everybody else was not really a musician.
So they're like a wash tub bass. I mean, somebody actually play the bass?
The bass player was decent. He actually plays. So it was basically me and the bass player who were actually musicians who have done, performances before. Everybody else, the guitarist, she had only played last year in the parent band performance. And she's only been playing since 2020. Bless her heart. I said that last week.
We
Bless
played
her heart.
snippets of that last episode.
Well, so we ended up having. You got me off subject again. I was thinking about that. Oh my God,
the best.
And people are like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
An emo 17-year-old that's just full of emo.
Oh my God,
and hormones and everything else.
It was so much emo. It sounded like this.
What a difference a year makes. Yeah, yes. That was my friend's daughter's birthday party that they did a band in the backyard, and I was one of three grown-ups there, and I was there to show some support, but God, it was hard not to laugh there. Yeah. So in front of everybody.
That's not too far off from what I'm going to insert. I mean, I could pull it up. Do you want to hear a little snippet of "We Will Rock You"?
We got all night. I'm not going anywhere. Did you go into "We Are the Champion" or you stick to
no, man.
No transition?
No.
Okay.
No. In fact, I tried to tell them, let's just do the first two verses and then we'll transition into Back in Black, which I cut down to a 2-minute version of Back in Black.
Very smart. I told you that last week. That is the key because people get up there and do these cover things like this and it just goes on.
Back in Black with no lead guitar is horrendous. And nobody knows where to come in. in that part that has the turnaround.
Oh.
They couldn't get it right. So I'm like, we're just not going to do that.
Yeah, just skip that.
You know what? That's not a problem.
Dun-dun-dun.
Okay.
Dun-dun-dun.
I'm going to give you a taste. Oh, Lord. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Hit us with it. Wait, is there any instruments other than drums? It's just a cappella. Yeah.
Hey, but those drums are on, man.
The drums are great.
Oh, they're so good.
You should have made it proggy, added synth to it. You just added a bunch of tambourines and things.
Man, I was like, I'm just going to lay on the beat. Hopefully they'll get it right. Oh, God, please keep it together.
Keep it in the pocket.
Yeah, so that's what we did. And then, yep.
Oh, this is just painful.
Oh,
this
boy.
is
Yeah.
white girls in Nashville at karaoke. That's what that sounded like.
Yep.
About 6 cosmopolitans into their karaoke night and white girls in cowboy boots. That's what that sounded like.
And then we ended with the new Green Day song.
Okay, there's the guitar. All right, that's spot on. You nailed it. That sounds just like Green Day.
Oh, my God. I thought it was Green Day.
I thought it was.
You know what? I think I played Green Day instead.
Yeah, you pulled up
sorry.
Spotify.
Pulled up the wrong
I saw
thing.
that. You're playing Spotify on me there, trying to fake me out.
Oh, my God.
But at least I heard the guitar on that one.
Yeah, so we got through the
Yeah,
3
you got
songs. And
Everybody was sober, too, because this was at school.
oh, yeah, it was at school. I told can we call him a singer? I told the guy who was going to be in front of the mic.
Who was singing.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
the guy
it,
who was
the guy
singing.
who was singing.
I was like, maybe you should do a shot of bourbon before you do some AC/DC.
Yeah,
just
that worked
maybe
for
that
me.
helped the voice.
Because as you and I learned very quickly that we are much better when the crowd is drunk.
But I will say this: those singers
Yeah.
had the most fun. They
were-
looked like they were having their best
Enthusiasm
the best time
goes
of their
a long
life
way.
up there.
That's just a
So-
metaphor for life. You know
You
what?
know what?
You just go for it like you're playing Madison Square Garden. Doesn't matter where you are. Just have fun and belt it out.
Yep. And my job, just hold it down. Just hold it down. Because if I don't, they will just go off the rails.
Ratchet strap in that performance.
Yeah, so I just held it down. I played it as tight as I could.
Yeah.
No looseness whatsoever. And I told them, if you guys forget where you are,
come back.
wait back to me.
Come back
to
here.
me. Yeah.
I'll get you on the downbeat. I'll see you on the downbeat.
Exactly. So yeah, we got through it, man.
So after you butcher some cover tunes, go out and listen to
Pot of Thunder, Cobras and Fire, Growing Up Rock, Slamfest Podcast, Decibel Geek, A to Z Radio, Metal Up Your Podcast, The Hustle, Disciples of the Watch, Podcast Rock City, Sean Geek and Fast Fret Podcast, State of America, Rock Strikes 10, Potter Than Hell, Shout It Out Loud Cast, The Kiss Room, Ages of Rock, and don't forget about Monty.
Hey, this is Monty Colvin from Galactic Cowboys and Monty's Rockcast, and you are listening to the amazing In Obscuria podcast. Rock on!
Monty's Rockcast. Come visit us in obscuria.com. Like us, share us, Facebook, X,
buy some t-shirts.
Instagram. Buy some t-shirts.
Man,
I put the new
past
shirts
2
out
days-
there. Did you see
well,
that?
I haven't seen those, but I got compliments yesterday twice on my shoegaze t-shirt you made for me. And
I didn't make that. I bought that.
Oh, you bought that? Okay, but so you acquired. But then the Radio Shack one, every time I wear that, somebody, and it's like a Gen X secret handshake because anybody younger than 40 doesn't know what that is.
No idea what that is.
No idea what that is. And really old people don't notice it. But that sweet spot, the Gen X crowd, like women and men, it's across the board.
That was the place to go for anything you needed.
Yep, you get kind of a head nod like, oh yeah, what's up, man?
What's up?
Yeah.
Cool with the Shack, man.
Yeah, I just kind of nod like, that's right, man.
Well, I got a new shirt that I ordered for you.
I got to check it out.
That I'm bringing hopefully this weekend. I'll bring it to you
this
this
t-shirt
weekend.
weather. That's my formal attire all week long. It's t-shirts.
It's not so much you, but it goes with today's theme.
Okay.
I didn't get it in time. I was going to give it to you for this episode.
Well, by the time the episode comes out,
yes, it will.
I'll be able to model it.
You can model it then.
Yeah.
So, be on the lookout for that. Okay. So I think Robert, I think it is past time for us to revisit something that we talked about 5 years ago. We did an episode 5 years ago on this.
COVID?
What the hell did you just say?
It is COVID. No. Well, funny you say that. We're going to mention something about that real soon here, but... Yeah. No, 5 years ago we had an episode and we've just never really come back to it. It's just one of those series that didn't take off for whatever reason. Well, we didn't do it again, so how could it have taken off? Anyway.
We needed some motivation, some time to let it simmer.
I think it's time, but we are going to have to, you're going to have to grab the time machine, so if you could slide that over. Oh, I'm glad you repaired it.
Yeah, it's a little wobbly, but...
All right. A time machine with wood and metal. This is old school. Okay, yeah, so we're going to go back to the year 2020. Pre-COVID 2020, perhaps.
Well, yeah, so it could be January, February, and part of March.
Yeah, pre-lockdown.
Pre-lockdown. So first 4 months was good days, and then the dark days came.
Yes, so I believe we're going to go back to the month of February. So if my memory is correct, you and I were not sounding so good on the episodes back in those days.
We had a little something.
We had something going on, and we were like, I can't get rid of this cold.
Yeah, it was a bad flu, and it just lingered for a long time.
Go away. What the hell is this?
A lot of phlegm.
What's going on in Asia with those weird bird flus they have? I don't know.
That's over there. That's over there.
Good thing that's not going to harm us.
It doesn't come across the ocean. Yeah. We got a long waterway between us.
So mask up, because we're going to get in the time machine. Mask up, because we don't want to bring that shit back in 2020. It was strong then.
It was the force was strong.
It was stronger. All right, so let's go back. We'll find out. I'm going to set it for February of 2020. We're going to go back and remember to stay quiet. We don't want to start our much younger selves.
Yeah,
we'll
innocent.
Start our innocence.
We were very innocent back then.
Exactly. So let's get strapped into this old...
Strap it on.
Let's strap on this time machine. Wait, there's no time machine.
How you doing?
Ow!
All right, here we go.
Can I dance with your date?
It's working. I think it's working.
This is Space Mountain.
Here we go. Come on.
Pew pew. Oh, excuse me. Well, lights are coming back on.
All right. Remember, be quiet. Be quiet.
Usually what I do, right, is I conduct a seance, or I get my Ouija board out, or I go to my magic 8-ball. This week I did not do that. I just didn't have time. So instead, I was watching The Return of the Living Dead the other night when everybody went to bed, and I thought, well, I'm going to watch a horror movie since nobody else will watch with me. And as I was watching, it's one of my favorite horror movies because it's campy, it's fun. It came out in 1985, and I was looking at the cover, and I was thinking, the cover depicts these punk rock looking zombies, and they're spray painting a tombstone with Return of the Living Dead spray painted on it, and I'm thinking, if they were dead punks, they would have had to been pretty old in 1985 because there are punks in the movie. So I'm thinking, that kind of gave me an idea. And so I thought, well, what punks would be dead in 1985? Well, it would be wherever the punk rock movement came from. So I thought we could talk today about proto-punk and the first wave of punk rock. So only stuff from the 70s, and really up to the year zero, which is considered the year zero is 1976. That's when the Ramones kind of founded
that's the beginning.
Punk rock, yeah, and the Pistols. So I thought we'd discuss that today.
I love it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, we're back. What was going on with my voice?
It did sound different.
It sounded really weird, man. I think I saw myself. I think I was sucking on a cough drop. I thought I heard it.
Like you had gravel in your mouth.
Yeah.
You could tell from that brief,
real flimmy sounding guy right there.
Had the very white voice going on.
Yeah, you sounded much lower than normal.
Yeah,
man, your balls had really dropped in here.
Puberty finally hit. Boing!
Oh, behave!
Yeah, so what do you think, man? I think it's time to do a little punk rock.
I think that's a great idea because still, after 5 years of doing this and talking about all genres of music, the punk rock thing still confuses me as far as the timeline. Because in my head, punk rock showed up around late 70s, 78, 79, and I forget, no, go back. There's, like 3 years before that. And so I see people talking about, oh, this band was punk rock before there was punk rock. And it's like 1971.
Right.
72.
That's right.
So
that is proto-punk.
It's kind of like COVID. It was around, didn't have a name, but you didn't know it. It was around, though.
Yep. So let's get into this. This is episode 284, Digging Up Some Punks, the second wave. And I'll tell you what that means in a minute. So the first time we did this, again, it was February 2020. That was episode 14, I believe. That was a long time ago. We are at episode 284 now.
Chiseled veterans at this point. Jaded. Oh my God, we're jaded podcasters right
we're
now.
salty. We are very salty
jaded
now.
Podcasters.
We're just assholes
Fuck
now.
this. Fuck everything. Fuck everybody.
Here endeth the lesson.
So it makes sense that we're talking about punk.
Yeah, sure. It fits in. So February, you had about 3.5, 4 weeks before shit hit the fan.
Yep. And you could tell we were sick.
Yeah, we
were totally sick.
And everybody said, oh, it just got here. Bullshit. It was here. Mm-hmm. But it was one of those things that looking back, have you gone back to normal? As in, are you right where you were in that February 2020, or do you think all that shut down and having to homeschool your kids and, how much did that change you?
I think the kids are back to normal, but I think there's some good things that came out of it because I'm still where I work, we never went back to full time.
Yeah,
so I still get my Mondays and my Fridays are remote. And remote wasn't really an option back then.
No, that was rare. That was for oddball jobs here or there, consultants and things like that.
Not many.
Yeah.
But what they realized was people can actually do their jobs at home and there were perks to the logistics of not having to drive for 2 hours a day. You actually probably got more productivity at first. Now, after COVID, I think a lot of people were forced to go back, one, just because of, companies are paying for their buildings and they need people in them. And two, I think that whole, when it was the only thing you could do, you were working. You would work at home. Mm-hmm. But once it's kind of back to normal, it's like, I'm going to fuck off a little bit. I'm not going to work so hard. I can work from home and, take a few too many liberties. And I think that's what happened to a lot of people.
Take calls while you're walking through the aquarium.
Yeah, exactly.
With your kids.
Which was, that was okay when it was COVID. Like you could go on a walk and take a call because people were freaked out and they were trying to keep people from freaking out. So do something that makes you feel good.
Right. And
but still work.
There wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah.
Once in the first 6 months especially. It really was a shutdown.
But then for the most part, I think, people that still have the work from home situation, I think that it's probably being abused these days because most people...
I would imagine. I mean, I totally would.
Most people don't have the ability to discipline themselves.
I could. I mean, I'm self-employed and I have been for 20, 30 years now at this point. So I could never work for somebody, but especially if they're like, oh no, you can totally do this at home, because I'd probably rush through it as quick as I could just to have, a couple extra 2 or 3 hours to fuck around in the end of the day. But I don't know. I don't see how you do it, but you've got a better temperament to be suited for something like that. You got an even keel.
Yeah.
I don't. My keel's not even.
I love Ron Keel. He's the best.
Keel Fest was great.
Kill fest, man.
God, that was great. But so I don't know. That, to me, I'm back to where I was, but life still, from a social standpoint, I saw the change. It's hard to get people to commit to things now, whereas before I could throw parties, we could throw events, festivals, you name it. We would throw all kinds of stuff.
So attendance is not the same since then?
It's not the same, but it's also last minute. That's a big change, that trying to sell tickets ahead of time. And it's also in the concert industry. It's not just me, that they can't they can't do pre-sales. They can't get the investments, therefore, and then they have to cancel the tour because people wait to the very last second to buy.
Well, I think one thing that COVID did was the convenience factor. went way up.
Yeah, you learned
Because
to
it was a
entertain yourself at
necessity.
home.
I'm just thinking everything became, companies figured out a way to still make money when they can't see you.
Yeah.
And so deliveries, people bringing food to you, bringing anything you need to you at any time, whenever you need it on the spot. And so I think it's just the culture now. Everything is immediate, and I don't have to plan for anything because I could just look on my phone and have it here in an hour.
And I'm very analog, so I don't do any of that. I don't order food online. I don't order
We do.
groceries online. I order from Amazon every couple of weeks, something stupid. But other than that, I'm more of an in-person type thing.
Right.
I do the events and things in my house, but we're seeing
But
a
that might
small
have something to
resurgence.
do with folks even going to events. Like,
Yeah,
I'll just wait
100%.
till the day, and then
And
if I want to go, I'll go.
The aversion to being around crowds.
Maybe.
There's still
Yeah,
people
maybe.
like that. I was at a coffee shop last night, and there was somebody sitting there at our table, and she had a
Maxed
mask
up.
on.
Yeah.
And I try my best not to judge. I'm like, hey, you know what? It's not hurting me. But then I realized, yeah, it is. I can't understand a damn thing she's saying because it's a noisy coffee shop. Oh, by the way, the person next to her, this 20-year-old, I met her. Her name's Siri.
Really?
Siri.
No shit.
20 years ago, her parents thought, oh, let's name her something unique and interesting. Nobody else is
Siri.
going to be named Siri.
Hey, Siri.
I know.
Yes?
Can you imagine all through junior high and high school? Hey, Siri. Hey, Siri. Shut up. God. That just backfired tremendously. But yeah, so I think that's really the only thing I see. There's still people that kind of live in that fear. Maybe, like I said, maybe they've got some type of immunity problem. I don't know. It's none of my business.
It's up to them if they want to wear
It
a
is,
mask.
but-
I mean, it's a big thing in Asia.
Yeah,
but I think they have bad pollution.
Yeah,
but-
if you've ever seen, you can see the air in China. My brother-in-law told me that he went there for business and came back and said, "Oh yeah, you can see the air totally. It's not foggy.
I don't think that's air
It's
you're
something
seeing.
else. Yeah, it's something else in the air." But I don't know. So who knows? The next one that comes around and they tell me to stay at home for a few months. That was the best vacation. I couldn't say it at the time because I had you and other friends that would have strangled me. But oh my God, please do not tell me to stay home and just hang out. Okay.
If that's all I had going on, that would have been awesome.
That's all I had going on. I had no work, which I didn't care. I knew the work was just, it's going to happen. But
Yeah, I had to work and teach two children.
I know. You came over and I saw the 1,000-yard stare in your eye, and I just hand you a beer and like, it's going to be okay. I don't know how, but it's going to be okay. You were just like, son of a bitch.
Well,
So
we're
getting back to
let's
the
get
reason
in-
we're here.
let's get
but I
into
couldn't
some
help
punk
but
rock.
talk about that because it's very nostalgic now at this point.
Well, you heard it in our voices.
Yeah.
This is
It was-
that was
as
going
it was
on.
happening.
It was going on. We didn't know.
It's fascinating. Yeah, it was being recorded. So, yes, for the punk rock, I need several more episodes to kind of really solidify the whole timeline of who came when, who was the first, who was the biggest influence, things like that.
All right. Well, I'm going to get into that. But first, we do need to check in with Mighty K. We need to see if this is okay today. So
See if she's in a good mood.
let's hear from the Diabolical Duo.
I am Captain,
Content.
and this is my faithful companion.
Mighty K.
Say hello.
I'm not a musician, but it means everything to us little folks that are fans of the music and mostly, or more importantly, the podcasters. Oh, I don't know, maybe both equally important, music and podcasters. Because without the other one doesn't exist. Without the other one, you're not the other one. You're just nothing. Shit.
Is that new math?
Well, hold on. I'm still calculating in my
You're
head.
not the
with
one,
the other
you're
one.
the other one. But carry the one.
I think she means
Divided by one.
She likes the idea for the episode.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But she's not a little person. She's like 5'10". She's muy alto.
I don't know. I think she's good with it. We're
think
going to
she's
move
okay.
forward.
We'll just
Let's do that.
interpret it there.
All right. So let's get into this. Last time we did this, 5 years ago, we covered proto-punk and the first wave. And so we were talking about what you were talking about, that there were bands that were considered punk rock or at least the godfathers of punk in the late 60s and early 70s. So you had bands that we talked about last time. You had your Iggy Pops, MC5,
MC5,
all the Detroit stuff out there, some of the New York bands that were considered punk before it was punk. And then what we really got into was kind of the first wave. And you think of, from a mainstream perspective, you think of the Ramones, but no, that they really ushered in kind of the next phase. So it was more like the Blondie before Blondie was big. Mm-hmm. So you had all the CBGB bands in New York, Talking Heads, Patti Smith, all these bands that would go on to have some success, but when they started, they were considered punk rock. And once Malcolm McLaren saw the Ramones in, I believe, 1975, when they played CBGBs for the first time in 74. So punk wasn't really a thing. The Ramones played, Malcolm McLaren saw them. He went back to London in 1975, and he immediately put together a band called the Sex Pistols. Mm-hmm. And so that's when you got the whole, this is what punk rock is going to be in the first wave. And in 1976, Blitzkrieg Bop was released by the Ramones, and that's what kind of set everything in motion for that first wave of punk rock. And that's what we talked about last time. So this time, we're talking about the second wave. It wasn't long to get to the second wave. So 76 is kind of when everything starts dropping. You had Blitzkrieg Bop, and then the same month that came out, the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Damned, they all start to play their first shows because they're influenced by this thing. And then you had the Damned, who released their first single in, I believe, 77, if I'm right. No, October 76, so almost 77. The Damned released their first single, New Rose, and then later that year, right before 1977, you had Anarchy in the UK with Sex Pistols. So that was kind of your first wave of punk rock. On the West Coast in the US, you had bands like X, the Go-Go's, Fear, the Dills, the Weirdos, the Germs. All of these bands never had any major success. The Go-Go's did later. Mm-hmm. But
that was like 82, 83.
That was late. Yeah, that was when they
82
went mainstream and, had some radio success. But
that's early, mainstream meaning when my sister bought that cassette.
Exactly. My sister had the 45.
Yep.
We got the beat. Anyway, that's what was going on in the U.S. and in England, and that was kind of covering like our first episode. So that was first wave. So what happens next is after 77, it spreads like wildfire. And there's all these bands across the UK, the US, Canada, Europe, Japan. It went everywhere. And the whole concept was that they were rejecting anything mainstream. That's what punk meant. Now, of course, that completely backfired.
That became mainstream.
Because it became mainstream. And think about mainly the fashion, for sure, influenced everything that happened in the 80s.
Still,
and even to this day.
Colored hair.
Yeah, all that stuff.
That's not very original, people.
Ripped
you think
jeans,
you are.
T-shirts, leather jackets, studded spiked jewelry, safety pins, the bondage and the S&M type of clothes. It was all exploited in the mainstream with, by the time you get to 78. Mm-hmm. So that's what the media and what the mainstream thought was punk. Somebody with a mohawk and studs and spikes.
What was the British sitcom? Young Ones. Was that after this wave?
That was after this.
So this was after the
fact. I think that was on, wasn't that on MTV? Or they re-aired it on MTV?
They re-aired it. No, this was on BBC.
It was BBC, but we didn't see it until it was on MTV. So MTV's not even out yet.
Yeah.
So no.
So it was probably early 80s.
Early 80s,
when it was mainstream.
Once in every lifetime comes a love like this. Oh, I need you, you need me. Oh, my darling, can't you see? Young ones, darling, we're the young ones. The young ones shouldn't be afraid to live, love. There's a song to be sung, 'cause we may not be the young ones very long.
But that whole stigma of what was mainstream considered punk rock, that was the look that came out in 77, right? And so punk was a lot more than that. By the late 70s is when punk experienced its second wave. It only came out in 76, but 2 years later, you're already in your second wave because it did catch on a little bit to the mainstream, so bands were already rebelling against that, which is kind of funny because it's only a couple years. And all of a sudden, you had all these subgenres. That's the main thing we're going to explore. The second wave is all about subgenres, and it's all leading up to where I came into the picture, which was hardcore punk, which was
late 80s,
like after 82.
Yeah,
because when I got into music, it was hardcore punk. It was the Black Flag, JFA, Dead Kennedys, all this stuff. We're not there yet. That's hardcore. That's its own thing. We're in this second wave. So we're leading up to that. We're like in between the original punk bands and the hardcore phase in the 80s. So that's what we're going to cover today. And punk was considered dangerous back then. Now, not so much. But back in the 70s, especially when all these subgenres started coming up,
they would have cut you.
Yeah, and I'd like to play a little something from one of my favorite punkers out there, who's still out there, and I believe they're putting out a new album this year, Mr. Mike Ness from Social Distortion. There's a little piece here that he said live on a 1998 Social Distortion album, and it's about the late 70s and early 80s scene in LA, and I'm just going to play this clip so you get a sense of what it was like back then.
I was driving through Hollywood today, and it was that parking lot across the street from the Whiskey. About 18 years ago, we used to sit back there and drink, and we'd get warmed up for the show. That was back when a time when society was not quite ready for this type of music. Does anyone remember those days? That's when punk rock was dangerous, right? You couldn't walk into a mall and get your little pussy pierced and and your little Doc Marten boots and your crazy color for your hair. You walk down the street with blue hair, you was gonna get in a fight with about 5 angry construction workers or the local college football team, rednecks or cops. Yeah, sometimes they kicked our ass, but you know what? Sometimes we beat the fuck out of them.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for those words
So
of wisdom.
It's a time capsule right there.
There
Put
you
that
go.
in the Smithsonian.
So let's kick off today, Robert. We're going to kick off with Handsome Dick.
Well, thank you. Didn't know you'd seen it.
You are a sexist pig.
This is a band that was part of the New York proto-punk scene. So this is a band that actually spans the entire 70s in New York. They were part of the first wave scene as well, but they helped kind of pioneer the evolution of the sound of punk within the second wave and then going more towards hardcore and crossover. So they were doing hard rock and blending hard rock and punk back in the day. And this is sort of working man's punk rock from New York. This is a band called the Dictators. They're formed in 1972 by Andy Chernoff and Ross the Boss Friedman. Now, if that name sounds familiar,
no.
Well, he does to Tony, the chairman. The chairman's listening. Guy. He sounds familiar because Ross the Boss would go on to help invent power metal with the band Manowar.
Oh, wow. Just dropped a name right there.
He would go from this band to wearing nothing but a loincloth.
That's why Tony likes him.
Oh, you did not say that?
So they were.
It's all about the loincloth.
The other thing with the Dictators is they were managed and produced by another figure we recently talked about, a guy named Sandy Pearlman.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that name?
Yeah.
So he's the guy behind Blue Oyster Cult.
No, that's not
another New York band.
Not to be confused with Ron Perlman.
Not Ron Perlman, no. Sandy.
Different manager.
His uncle Sandy.
What's their relation there?
Yeah, so Sandy managed the Dictators along with Blue Oyster Cult. So you got Blue Oyster Cult, who at that point in time, we're talking 77, 78, they're like having their peak of their like glossy, overproduced phase. And then he's doing the Dictators, which is like a New York punk rock, fuck you kind of thing. So it's kind of funny. So he pulled the same move with the Dictators that he did with BOC. He took a member of the band's crew and promoted them to lead singer. That's the same thing he did with BOC.
Somebody from the crew.
He took the lighting guy and said, Eric Bloom, you're going to be the lead singer of BOC. And then he took
Who's the lead singer?
Of this band or Blue Oyster Cult?
No, but with the Dictators.
Oh, well, they had one. He didn't like him. So he's like, I'm going to take a guy that's...
Kicked him out of the band.
Yeah, I'm going to take a guy from the crew who's a roadie.
Yeah.
And I'm going to promote you. So Handsome Dick Manitoba, you are now the lead singer of the Dictators. And that's how we got Handsome Dick Manitoba.
Wow. I guess if you form the band, you've got the legal right to do whatever the hell you want. So.
Yeah. And this band there's much kind of satire and fun as they are punk rock. So not the serious punk rock that, this is a band that had a lot of fun. Their first album came out, it's called Go Girl Crazy, came out in 1975. Prior to the Ramones, but they still weren't considered punk at that point because it wasn't a thing. But they were definitely proto-punk. You could make a claim they were the first New York punk band. Maybe. Okay. They broke up.
I think you just did.
I think I did. They broke up after that album came out because they were hoping it would be a big thing and it was lack of sales. So they're like, we're breaking up in 75.
He got away.
But then in 76, they thought, you know what, we'll just get back together.
Wait a minute. Hang on.
Let's get back
Let's
together.
not get ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, we can do this. Let's add a new bass player. That's what they said. And they got Mark the Animal Mendoza. And if that name sounds familiar, he would later be the not-so-pretty bass player in Twisted Sister.
Oh, yeah, that was not a pretty band at all. None of them.
Yeah, they wore that makeup.
That's why they had to wear makeup, yeah.
Yeah, that makeup made them even worse.
But it was scary bad as opposed to just nature's error.
Yeah, so Ross the Boss and Mark the Animal Mendoza, two metal guys, would go on to be metal guys, are in the Dictators. So what you're getting is a punk band, a proto-punk band who are kind of putting this hard rock spin on their punk rock that they're creating.
Which I tend to like that, side of punk.
It appeals to me.
Yeah.
You know? So their second album, they put it out and they tried to go a little more commercial, a little more hard rock, and it didn't go over well.
He got away.
It kind of flopped. And so they thought, okay, we're going to put out another album and we're just going to get back to basics. We're going to be the Dictators that we were, and we're going to do a true punk rock record. And this is the one that I'm going to play from. It's called Blood Brothers. But again, they broke up after that came out because they were like, it didn't do anything again. No.
He got away.
But they reformed in 1999 and put out a new album in 2001.
Not exactly workaholics.
But then they broke up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is how it goes with the Dictators. But this is a great band. Handsome Dick left in 2008. Today, they are still around. Ross the Boss, he left Man of War. He's back in the Dictators today. I mean, really, you don't want a 60-something-year-old guy wearing a loincloth. No, so it's a good thing. No. Good thing he came back to the Dictators. So he's on guitar. And then you've got Albert Bouchard is the drummer for the Dictators right now. If that name sounds familiar, he was the drummer in Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, that's where I heard that last week.
And then the guitarist lead singer of the Dictators right now is Sirius XM Ozzy's Boneyard DJ Keith Roth.
Oh, okay. I know him.
You know him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the singer now because Handsome Dick's not there anymore.
I have not listened to his channel in a long time because, I don't know, I have to pull out and see.
So you have to go check out what the Dictator. This is the original Dictators.
He's
I'm
the
about
cheesiest
to play.
one they've got, but
he is.
It's more what DJs used to sound like on terrestrial radio. They all sounded like that.
And Keith Roth is a
he plays it up. He does it well. It's not too much. It's just fun.
Yeah, and he's a musician.
Yeah,
so
he's on that. He sounds like a David Lee Roth on the radio.
Or as Baco says, David LaRoth.
David LaRoth. I like that. I'm going to steal that. Don't tell him I said.
All right, so I'm going to play from this third album. Now, counting off, you listen closely, because the count off at the beginning of this song was done by one of their biggest fans of the time, Mr. Bruce Springsteen. So here we go. Here's the Dictators kicking us off for our second wave. This is Faster and Louder from Blood Brothers, 1978.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Understand my aggravation, building up so strong inside, 'cause I wanna make
Yeah, that's kind of my genre of punk rock, from the Sex Pistols to that, somewhere in that vicinity. You can understand the lyrics. It's got kind of a verse chorus thing going on, but it's got some melody to it. Not, it doesn't have to be proggy or anything like that. We're not talking Yanni.
No, not at all.
Zamfir.
Yeah.
But it's got just a little bit, just enough to hang on to. That's all I need.
Yeah, and it's, you listen to it now and it sounds pretty tame.
Yeah, it does seem
in
tame.
comparison to what's going on now. But this is 1978. Yeah. So think about what's going on in 1978. On the mainstream side of music, you had a lot of disco. Huge.
Disco's
huge in 1978. You had a lot of yacht rock.
Yes.
Huge in 1978.
If you like pina coladas.
Exactly. And then you had kind of the old school, the old guard of classic rock bands.
Boston was selling out arenas.
Still doing their thing,
or stadium, excuse me.
Yeah, stadium. That was stadium rock.
Yes, stadium rock was all the rage.
And, this is counter to that.
Yeah.
And so it was faster and louder. And
Pink Floyd Animals had just come out.
Yeah,
year before.
That's right.
I think year before.
Your prog bands are starting to kind of dive off. Yeah. Die off a little bit.
They had peaked probably a year before this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe even earlier, like 74.
Yeah, it depends on which band.
But yeah, a lot of the proggy stuff was gone. You even had, so with your yacht rock, you even had like some jazz rock going on. So there was a lot of there was a lot of mellow stuff.
The only jazz rock band I think of is Steely Dan. I know there's more.
There were others, but yeah.
That's the only jazz. If somebody says jazz rock, I'm like Steely Dan. So yeah, they were hitting it big.
Yeah. So, 78, there was a lot of mellower stuff out there.
Yeah.
And this was a middle finger to that.
Jimmy Buffett.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to play 2 songs from each year that we're covering in the second wave. So this is still in 1978. Now remember, the Ramones and those first wave bands had only come out in 76, 77. It's 78. It's only a year later. And the next band, they're formed in 1977 by a former member of the British punk band, the Buzzcocks. And they had a slight hit.
Yeah, I hear their name. Yeah, they get played on the radio.
They had hits more in the UK than they did in the States. But they were, a decent-sized band compared to Sex Pistols and stuff. They were part of that UK scene. And so this guy leaves that band and says, "Punk's dead, man. Punk's dead." It's 1978.
Yeah. Just got started.
Yeah. So Howard Devoto says, "I want to focus on a more progressive sound. This is just this, Sex Pistols thing is just not going to go anywhere. It's already done. And so I want to get more progressive with my sound." And
I want at least 3 chords.
So they created a subgenre called post-punk in 1978. Post-punk. But it's a genre that still exists to this day. And post-punk is basically the ethos of punk rock, but it has a little more structure, a little more melody, and it's kind of what ushered in new wave. So it's like this is kind of what you got between punk and what would become new wave in the 80s.
And when I hear somebody say post-punk, I think of new wave. I don't think of the actual in-betweener. I just go straight to new wave and side off all the new wave bands. Yeah. But yeah, there's something in the
post-punk is still a term that's used today, and it's so loosely used. But this band is called Magazine, and they released 4 albums from 78 to 81. That's all they did. They reached top 40 in the UK with all of their albums, which is pretty impressive. But they were really ushering in the new wave, which would catch on with the British and the European punk bands who would stop playing punk and become the new wave and the new romantic bands of the 80s. And so this is one of the bands that kind of helped influence that. But they're still considered punk, and they're still part of the second wave of punk as far as I'm concerned. The only thing that we know about them in the US, as far as most people who ever have heard of Magazine, is a cover they did of Sly and the Family Stone's "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again."
I know the original.
Yeah, their version's not good. I'm not playing it. It came out in 1979. I think it sucks.
Okay, yeah, because that's kind of sacrilegious to redo
to me, you don't mess with really good Sly funk rock. So
it's good the way it is. Thank you.
So we'll just play some Magazine, some of their own music. So this is your post-punk in 1978, which I just think is hilarious. This is Magazine, shot by both sides from their first album, Real Life.
It's just what's real. What I'm given to understand is exactly what I steal. I wear my
That's the stuff. I like that.
Dig it.
And just maybe a step and a half away from two other bands around the same time was Joy Division and Bauhaus, who had that same vibe.
Post-punk.
The singer was dangerously close to gothy sounding, the early goth. And all that is what I think of when I think of kind of that post-punk. So I guess I wasn't that far off.
You're not far off.
Yeah,
But it started as, all of those bands started in about the same time. You're right, 1978. They'd had enough of that punk rock that had only existed for 2 years.
But I understand that, because believe me, as fun as it is to play fast and loud and three chords and blah, blah, blah.
You grow and you move.
You grow and you want to do more, but you're limited. And the first band that did that, I know people stood in the audience and went, "You're sellouts. You played a melody," or something like that. But then once you got past that, then this song had something that all those songs didn't have, a lead.
Right.
It had a guitar lead in it.
Had more traditional song.
But it still had that punk aesthetic to it, which, once again, we've talked about this. That's kind of my sweet spot.
Yeah, so that's what the second wave is. It's, like I said, it's all these subgenres. So it's not just punk anymore. That was first wave. It's called punk.
Splintered.
Now you've got post-punk. And next we're going to move into something that could be considered oi punk.
This is new.
1970. Oi? You never heard of oi?
Mexican punk, right?
No.
Oh,
Oi!
That's C. C punk.
No, oi punk is another subgenre of punk. They came around the same time. It's more like working class kind of punk.
Was it AC/DC?
Exactly
Dirty
right.
D's. Oi.
Exactly
Oi.
right.
I bet.
Same time frame.
Same time frame, right around there.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just weren't punk.
No, they were.
But
They were,
but they didn't call them punk.
No, they didn't. But they
sort of
dressed
were.
the part. They looked it. Their songs were just fast and loud.
Yeah.
They had leads, but other than that,
It's interesting that they never put them in that category.
No.
But I don't think they would let that happen.
No, but
they didn't identify as.
They're their own category.
Yeah.
That's like Van Halen we talked about a few weeks ago. The Van Halen's kind of in between.
They did whatever
metal,
they wanted.
Rock, all this other stuff. They did what they wanted. AC/DC, same thing.
Yeah, you're right.
All these different people that like different things all agree on AC/DC. Like a lot of people agree on Van Halen that may then splinter when you start talking about Metallica or, Motley Crue.
Right. But we're not talking about any of those. We're going to talk about another English punk band who I might consider oi. And 3 of the 4 original band members in this band, before they even recorded their first album, would leave to form a band called Generation X.
That's name brand.
Who we've played before. The guitarist for this band was William Broad. Yeah, and he decided to leave this band, and he said, "I'm going to be the lead singer in Generation X, and I'm going to change my name to Billy Idol." This is the original band that Billy was in.
That was his original name.
Yep.
Broad.
This band is called Chelsea. And yeah, you could call them just punk. You could call them oi. I just think they're a bridge between what the Pistols started and what we would get in 81, 82 in America with hardcore. But, you listen, tell me. I think this is just pure punk rock. 1979 is when this came out. And this band had 12 albums up until 2022. They're one of the longest lasting punk bands of that scene to still be around. And they've had, I tried to count how many members they've had in the band over the years, and it got too much. I couldn't keep track.
Revolving door.
It was a revolving door.
It's like Menudo.
What the hell did you just say?
At one point, Sting was even in this band.
What?
They had Billy Idol and Sting in this band at one point.
I didn't know that. Wow.
This is crazy. But this band's called Chelsea. And this is, like I said, everything you would expect from a UK punk band in 1979, rebelling against everything. So here's a song from a single they had. It's called I'm on Fire.
felt that song. I've been on fire more than once.
It has happened to you.
Yes, it has. And I should have used that as like a walkout song back in the days of the circus stuff.
Oh, you still can.
You'll
have opportunities.
I'm not doing the circus stuff anymore, but yeah, that would have been perfect walkout with a couple of one flamethrower in each arm. They're pretty damn heavy, but I could have managed it for half a minute or so.
Yeah, the song's only 2 minutes anyway.
Exactly.
So.
I could have worked out a little bit.
Yeah.
That was great. I love this stuff.
It's just what you think of with punk rock, right?
And
this is
what I like to play also.
Wheelhouse.
It's just fast and loud, not too technical. It's just fun, man. You can just be flailing around and still keep the rhythm.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Chelsea is one of the bands.
That's a dumb name, by the way.
It is. You don't like that. It is a name that you remember, at least, I guess. I don't know.
Know what I mean, nuts, know what I mean, say no more.
If I remember correctly, Henry Rollins in one of his stand-ups is talking about his days in Black Flag, and he talks about the UK bands when they went over to the UK, because one of the things that the original punk bands, the fans did, you've probably heard this, I think it was called gobbing, but basically they spit on the band the entire time. That meant that they liked you.
Oh, fuck no.
Exactly.
This is way before COVID.
So when the U.S. bands go over to play during this period of the late 70s, early 80s, and they get spat upon, it doesn't mean the same thing to the Americans.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of fights. And,
I would, first time somebody hawked a lug at me, I would have got my ass beat because I would have jumped right off the stage.
But if I remember, I want to say that Black Flag, when Rollins was in Black Flag, they were playing with this band, Chelsea, and he said that they were the worst, just assholes to them of any band that they've ever played with. And so I'm assuming it's because they were a band in the late 70s, and then you had Black Flag coming just a few years later, and they were like the new hardcore,
Yeah, they probably were dicks
doing better than they were, perhaps. And I just remember I can't remember if I can find it. I'll stick it in here. But I do remember a stand-up bit where he was like talking about getting just caked in people's spit.
Ow! Just hold your wad there, fella.
Well, I mean, I experienced some of that, but it was from our drummer.
Well, this is true. Yeah, this wasn't from the band. This was from the audience, which I think is worse.
Our own
almost.
drummer would just nail me in the back of the head with a big glue.
Couldn't even see it coming.
No, I'm just singing along, and I'm like, I know it. I can't stop. The show must go on, but I'm going to kick your ass later.
He did it to me, too.
Often. Equal opportunity.
Yeah. UK tour. For some strange reason, we were supposed to do dates with Bow Wow Wow and the Exploited. The next few days were spent spinning our wheels because Bow Wow Wow kept canceling. Finally, we got to play in Manchester. So we get to Manchester Polytechnic and we find out that we're playing with this band called Chelsea, a well-known English punk rock band. For some reason, Black Flag was headlining. I smelled trouble immediately. We didn't even have an album out there yet, just a six-pack single. We were headlining? Someone somewhere was going to be really pissed off. We loaded in the equipment and went upstairs to the dressing room to try and find some food. The dressing room is huge and was to be used by all the bands on the bill that night. I fall asleep on the floor next to the wall, out of the way of everything and everyone. Fine. I'm woken up by a boot in my ribs. I grab my side and look up, and there's Gene October, the singer in Chelsea. Excuse me, Los Angeles, sorry about that. I just tripped over you. Yeah, right. I go back to sleep, I get woken up again by the same boot. Oh, Los Angeles, so sorry. I remain cool, being the only Flag member in the room, which is now full of Chelsea and crew. The prick. He starts talking to me. You really don't have much good music in America, do you, Los Angeles? The Dickies and the Ramones, I mean, they are a load of shit, aren't they, Los Angeles? What a drag. I had 2 Chelsea records at home. It was hard to take. Hours later, Chelsea is on stage and old Gene is talking to the crowd between songs. There's some short-haired hippies from Los Angeles in the crowd tonight. It's Black Flag. I want you to get them. The crowd cheers. Me and Ian walk into the crowd smiling and waving, saying, here we are, motherfuckers, come and get us. No one came and got us. Not one. Personally, I was kind of hoping 1 or 5 of them would have, so I could have had the pleasure of taking 9 days of misery out on one of their faces. Finally, we get to play. This one boy kept spitting on me for the whole set, and I didn't do anything about it. I was trying to be cool with these people. The spitting thing was just too much for old Ian. He walked up and smacked the guy upside his head. After that, the entire audience took a few steps back. I apologize for Ian's actions, even though I thought what he did was right on. Now as I write this, I have to put down my pen because I'm laughing so hard. The look on that guy's face was worth the entire trip.
All right, so moving on, we're going to stick in the year 1979, and I'm going to start off this way. Back in 2003-ish, you help me out here. You and I played a well-paying gig with our band.
I already know what you're talking about. Yep.
At Road Atlanta.
Yes, Hazardous Motorsports.
Yes, Hazardous Racing. Motorsports, whatever they were called. And one of the, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the executives on their team, I say executives in air quotes because he was just a dude. But he came up to us. He was like, "You guys," I think he was English, and he said, "You guys remind me of this band. You got to know who they are, the Stranglers." And we were like, nope. Never heard of them.
This is before we were well-educated podcasters.
I'd never heard of them, but that's the band we're going to play next. And in 1979, they released an album called The Raven. That's what we're going to play from. But to give a little background on them, I knew nothing when he said that. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go check out that band that guy said that we sounded like.
He's holding a wad of hundreds. Yeah. Is like making a fist around the wad of hundreds. So I'm just agreeing to whatever he says. Oh, yeah, sure. Great. Right. Sounds good.
And then he offered more cash. He's like, can you guys play again? And we played everything we know.
Everything we know. He's like, just play it again. Okay. He gave us $1,000 just to turn around and start playing again. And we've told the story, but this is the gig where he also came up and said, I've got these 6-foot-tall models. Are you okay with them dancing on the stage while you play?
Yeah. And do you mind setting up next to the Aston Martins?
Yeah, and the Ferrari and the Porsche. Like right next to him. We're just like, I think you and I looked at each other like, that's fine.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll do that. Paying in cash, and we blew it all at Waffle House after the show.
Probably. Yeah, so anyway, he mentioned that he said we sounded like this band, The Stranglers, which I never heard of. So I went and I checked them out right after that. And then I heard this song, Get a Grip on Yourself. And like, I know that song. And I knew that the metal band Prong had covered this song. I didn't know it was a cover.
Is that a junior high reference?
Get a grip. Well, it's... yeah. Exactly. So I listened to like a greatest hits or something that I bought, and then I just dove like hard on this band. I really went into everything because I really, really loved it. Now, I will say it is punk, and it came out at the time of the second wave, but it's quirky, man. It is like they are their own thing. So I'm not sure if the guy was saying we were as quirky as this band, but he said we sounded
a little
like
quirky,
them.
yeah.
I guess we were. And I think what he was going for when he made that comment was because we had Brandon Still on keyboards, and I had I played the Rickenbacker, so I had a very unique sound to the bass, and then you got the keyboards, and then, you're rocking, and we've got Ken on drums. So I guess it was a little bit similar to this. We'll let you see. Because this band, the Stranglers, they were another band that, even though they were called punk, they weren't called post-punk, but they did kind of help usher in the new wave as well. They've been called new wave, they've been called art rock, they've been called gothic rock, they've been called sophistopop, and they've been called punk. Mostly they're labeled as punk, but they're kind of a thing unto themselves. And so this is what you're going to hear. And they've been active for 5 decades. Along with the Damned, they are one of the longest surviving bands with, all of the UK bands from that scene. They're one of the longest ones still going. I would tell you.
Rolling Stones has got about 10 years on them.
Well, they weren't a punk band.
I'm just saying UK bands.
Right. UK punk bands. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I will tell you, if you're interested in listening to them, their first 10 albums, they had lead singer Hugh Cornwell. That's the best Stranglers there is, so just go with the first 10 albums, 77 to 1990. But I'm going to play you from 1979 from their album The Raven. This is Dead Loss, L-O-S-S, Angeles.
The leeches there, you see the leeches there. There's some marshmallow there, it's also shallow there. In dead Los Angeles, in dead Los Angeles, the trashed up monster done. It's got his glasses on, he's never seen the shit from the La Brea pits. The lunar base camp there, with burning midnight lamp. They call it Frisbee land, it's just a Disneyland. Android Americans live in the ruins there. In dead Los Angeles, in dead Los Angeles, the trashed up monster done. He's got his glasses on, he's never seen the shit from the La Brea pit. 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 From the La Brea pit.
Quirky indeed. That's
quirk is the best word.
That is the absolute best word for that. Yes, but that groove was kind of infectious. I don't know. I need to listen to it a couple more times. Dun, 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 dun. Dave Mustaine. Oh my God! I knew there was something about that. Dun, 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 dun. That's what it was.
Maybe that's where Dave got it.
God, that's so funny. It was like
little Megadeth.
My brain was trying its hardest. It was kind of grinding a little bit, and I'm like, oh, that's why it sounded familiar.
But this came out in 1979.
Mortal man. Right, but this is the first time hearing that song, so I have to say that reminded me of Mustaine. But even though he ripped it off, let's just go and put it out there. He ripped that off completely.
Totally. Megadeth ripped off the Stranglers.
Yes, bless his heart. But yeah, I like it. I would like to hear some more of that.
And you can't pigeonhole them, so they're all over
the weird keyboards.
Yeah,
just like you said,
they're all over the place. So if you listen to the album, it's kind of all over the place. But it kind of is. It still sits in punk because it's just so out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all driven by Jean-Jacques Brunel's bass. And I think my tone was similar in Big Jack Pneumatic to what you just heard.
Okay.
So maybe that's why that guy said that. And then the keyboards, obviously, Brandon had those retro sounds.
I could see the resemblance there.
Yeah, so maybe that's why he said we sounded like the Stranglers. But
if we had known, we would have covered that song totally.
We would have covered some Stranglers because we could have pulled it off perfectly. But it's so funny that one comment sent me down the path to like be a huge fan of this band.
I'm so glad you're paying attention because I wasn't paying attention to something completely different.
You are a sexist pig.
Yeah, we didn't mention the models that were there. Hazardous also had models.
We talked about them the previous times, but yeah, I swear there's pictures in that box upstairs of photos
of them dancing with us.
Maybe in the collage you did.
There are pictures in the collage of the Hazardous dancing.
So maybe I'll go take a picture of the collage and then we can post that. But no kidding, 6 foot tall models.
Beautiful
model. That was just a glorious night right there.
It was amazing. One of the best gigs I've ever played.
Oh yeah, because we got paid.
It was just so out there.
Weird and fun. We had low expectations. We knew we were going up to a racetrack. Like, hey,
you were excited.
Yeah, I was like, cool, cars. Oh, the gig's going to suck because we're going to be sitting in a parking lot somewhere.
Right, not seeing the race.
Yeah, not seeing the race. No, we had a nice covered tent with models and sports cars. It was great.
And we were literally set up. How much were those cars worth? We were set up next to.
So 20-something years ago, 22 years ago, those cars were $150,000 each. Take that, do the math on that.
And our dumbasses were next to them.
Oh, we're flailing around with our guitars. Like a scratch would have been a $30,000 repaint.
Oh.
That van, you would have seen me spinning gravel. If I had scratched that car, I'd have been like, I'll meet you at Waffle House.
I remember them telling us how they got those cars there, the guys at Hazardous.
I don't remember this story.
Oh, they were like telling me the time that it took for them to get from L.A. and from New York with the cars. And I'm like, that time doesn't compute. And he's like, do you know how fast these cars are?
It took 4 hours to get here from New York. Like, wait a minute, New York? Yeah.
But they told me these, it was like, are you serious? Like, oh yeah. We drove these things wide open in the middle of the night. I'm like,
and nowadays they would be classified as tech bros. Like that was before there was such thing as a tech bro. But these dudes
I don't even know what that is.
Well, it's like dudes that are starting a startup that have tons of money.
Oh yes.
It's not really their money, but they have lots of money and they're just blowing cash and their offices are decorated like a Taj Mahal. And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, they're bankrupt and they disappear.
So they're still around. Hazards. I looked them up.
Oh, you did?
They're still around.
Interesting. I have to go Google that, see what they're racing now. Because
see if our pictures on the website somewhere.
In the archive.
The archives. This is what my granddad listened to back when he started the company.
Yeah, the old days.
Okay, next up, a very, very controversial artist. Some wouldn't even call him an artist. Most only think of him for his very shocking and grotesque performances.
Is his name start with G?
It does start with a G.
And his middle name starts with G?
It does. Okay. You are correct. Yes, we were talking about...
I knew exactly who this was.
We were talking about G.G. Allen. And his live performances is what he's known for. It's transgressive acts, self-mutilation, defecating on stage, assaulting audience members. He was arrested, imprisoned, he hardly ever got through a full set.
Yeah.
Because that would happen.
It would just lead to chaos.
And he was just an anarchist, basically. But what most people don't really think of is his music. He was in a band. He was performing on stage with a band, but most people only think about the stuff that he did. And he actually, at one point in the beginning, was trying to take it somewhat seriously, and he was a punk rock artist. He promised for years that he would commit suicide on stage. I forget what it was. He was going to slit his wrist or slit his throat or something on stage, and he talked about this for years. And then he ended up, before he got to the Halloween that he was going to do it, the last one that he said, he actually died from a drug overdose.
Oops.
In 1993. He was 36 years old. And this is well documented in the film Hated, G.G. Allen and the Murder Junkies. Just, if you're going to go out there and watch it, it's out there on YouTube. If you're going to watch it, just make sure you've got a barf bag next to you because they show everything.
No. So our friend, dear friend Eric, was talking about him. I had no idea who
he saw him at the rec room. I remember him telling us this story.
So he saw him. He said him and Jim were talking about that, and they mentioned the documentary and stuff like that. And then they also mentioned something in defecation. I was like, I'm out.
He literally in the movie he literally shits on the stage and then eats it.
Yeah. And I'm like, nope, not gonna be watching this. It's because I don't know when it happens. I can't sit there and just.
He walks around naked with the man's tiniest penis you've ever seen, and this other guy walking behind him with his finger in his butt.
What the hell you say?
It's like the craziest. But that's all people know of G.G. Allen.
Yeah.
I'm about to let you listen.
I might have seen him at Burning Man because that's.
Probably
not that avant-garde. Yeah. The eating your own feces, yes, that's frowned upon. But the walking around with a tiny penis.
Well, leave no trace, Robert. Leave no trace.
That is true. He was ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time.
Yeah. So what most people don't know is his early music was not just background
Even
music.
My dog doesn't do that. Thank you very much. Dio is more refined than this. Ronnie James D.O.G. is more refined than this guy.
We're going to move on to the music, though.
Yes, please.
All right. We're not going to defecate. Well, I might defecate while we're playing this.
No.
If I do, I'll eat it. Don't worry. I'll clean it up.
Defecation-free zone. Now Dio's walking over here. He's like, what? Did you say poop? Is there some poop? What?
Okay. So back to the music. So he actually did have his first couple of records were actually pretty good punk albums. He ended up releasing 12 albums. They all vary in quality and genre that he's playing. He even had a country album at some point. But the first ones,
feces.
Yeah, but the first ones were pretty decent. So I'm going to play from his very first album, Always Was, Is, and Always Shall Be. It came out in 1980, and this is a song called One Man Army.
Hey, look out, world, I'm a submachine gun for you. Shooting up bullets, gonna kill you too. Jumping up and down, screaming in the night. Taking orders from the man that's gonna drive me wild. Well, I'm woman on that booyah, that's all I need. But I'm woman on that booyah, I'll shoot bullets in the streets. A one-man bullet, I'll shoot the army down.
Thankfully, there were no brown notes in that. I could see Jack White getting a little inspiration from that. It was like he had the Seven Nation Army, but I could see that being something that he might have listened to and gotten a little bit of motivation from.
Yeah, I mean it's not horrible.
No.
Later on, his shit would get worse.
Literally,
would get really bad. Gross.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, G.G. Allin, when he first came out,
he had
a
it going
punk rocker.
On. Yeah, he lived it.
He lived something
and died it.
He was an idiot.
Sounds like it.
He's a moron. Junkie moron.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, another cut from 1980. So I don't think I've mentioned we're covering the second wave, 78 to 81. That's considered the second wave.
Yeah, you had the first wave and second wave were only to 1981.
Yeah.
You're like 6 more waves to go.
Yeah. First wave was really only 2 years.
Yeah, just a blip.
But it influenced everything else that's still around to this day.
Still.
And now we're going to go back to the UK, and another subgenre to come out of the late 70s that was part of this second wave was anarcho-punk. Now, this is the promoting of extreme anarchism. So the origination of the A with the circle, that's where this came from.
So that was a later addition to punk rock. That I'm sure they were thinking of themselves as like Sex Pistols and things.
Well, Sex Pistols sung about it, right? Anarchy in the UK, but
they didn't live it.
Living the anarchy as a means of life, which is actually very stupid because you have to have some order at some point.
It's all fun and games, until you run a red light and get T-boned and you're like, call the police.
But it's even the whole idea in rock music happened in proto-punk. So the MC5 actually talked about anarchist values. Hawkwind was actually, they were anarchists. The Edward Broughton Band, who we actually played a long time ago, you hated.
Sorry.
They were all bands we played and all bands that are anarchists.
It just came back. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Fuck that.
But they all had leftist anarchist ideologies, but it was the English anarcho-punks that took it to the extreme, and they were doing so in the late 70s and early 80s. And I'm going to play from one of the bands. And there was the biggest band on the scene was a band called Crass, and they had their own record label. And so they heard this band, who we're going to play, called Zounds, with a Z, not sounds, Zounds. And they heard this band and went, we're going to put you out on our label. And so their first album came out on the Crass label, and it was like this group of bands in the UK that consider themselves anarcho-punk. This band is equal parts Velvet Underground, avant-garde, arty stuff, and equal parts Sex Pistols, which is kind of what anarcho-punk is.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty damn cool. The other thing this band were into is there was another scene which I think we've mirrored in the States often, but there was a scene called the cassette culture. So you're talking 1977. So basically these were bands that were just like recording cheaply, making their own cassettes, and they were trading them, and that was kind of like their thing. And then they were all squatters, and they had free festivals. So everything was about, everything's free, everything's shared. It's kind of your Burning Man.
Oh, bullshit.
Ideals.
Bullshit.
In a way.
There's nothing free there. They claim it's all, but
I'm saying the idea.
How much money I spend to go there.
The idea is, everything's shared, everything's free, and so that's kind of what they were doing.
Keep your hands off my beer stash at Burning Man. It's mine. It's not a shared culture at all. Fuck off. This is my beer.
So we're going to play from this band's release. So they did an EP on Crass Records, then they got signed up to Rough Trade Records, which was a well-known punk rock independent label in the UK. So they released something in 81. This band split up in 82. So everything they've now have out is just combined all the stuff they did into one single album.
Yeah.
But this original song that we're playing is from 1980. So here is Zounds from Curse of the Zounds with Can't Cheat Karma.
1, 2, 3, go, I've got an ego, it won't let me go, what am I gonna do? A, B, C, D, paranoia's killing me, I'm dying on me aching feet, what a way to go. Roll up, people always stroll up, so why don't you grow up? No thank you. Big cats, small cats, some cats are fat cats, those cats are bad cats, what we gonna do? There's an awful lot of people in the world today. There's an awful lot of trouble on the streets these days, and it doesn't seem to matter what you do or say. If a change is gonna happen, gotta help it on its way. A change has gotta come before too long, I know. The peace has gotta come, and I could be wrong, I know, but I just don't You don't trust me and I don't trust you. I bet you wish you did and I know I do. Why have you got secrets? Cause I know you have. If you've got something to hide then it must be bad. A change's gotta come before too long, I know. Peace has gotta come and I could be wrong, I know. But I just don't know what I can do. I bet you wish you did and I know I do. Why have you got secrets? Cause I know you have. If you've got something to hide then it must be bad. A change has gotta come before too long, I know. Peace has gotta come and I could be wrong, I know. But I just don't know what I can do.
Excellent ending. Just exacerbation. I don't know what I can do. God.
About as English as you can possibly get.
And 99% of the people in the world, if you say, what does punk rock sound like? That voice.
Exactly.
It was very jingly jangly for anarchist punk rock.
I know.
It was like very.
That's why I said it had a little Velvet Underground art rock.
I can see that now. But yeah, his voice, that Johnny Lyde, all that. That's the snarl. Right. You could hear
snotty,
the snarl.
Snotty punks.
Snotty punks, yes. So all that blends into that. That's just, and getting back to your point about how the anarchist is in similar to Burning Man. The reason I go there and have been going there for a long time is because it was the weirdest combination of an extreme hippie vibe, peace, love, people walking up to you with burning sage, let me cleanse your aura, whatever, but also right next to really hardcore anarchist. Like, seriously, right. Fuck you. You know, we're not doing any of this. We're not going to participate with that. But then the fact that everybody is there getting along, having a good time. That's what I saw. The first time I went, I sat there and saw one group, saw the other group, saw everybody hanging out and went, oh, I like this. It was very weird and very odd for those two. And there's other, genres, just like music at the burn. It's a cross section of humanity, but it's just that blending of peace, love, happiness. No, fuck you, get off my lawn type thing. And so as an aging Gen Xer, guess which one I identified with? Let's blow stuff up. Yeah. That's the one I gravitated towards. Let's go set things on fire. Yes.
The oi and the anarchy.
That's it. So I tend, but I wouldn't go there if it was just the oi and the anarchy.
Right, because you have to have the
softer side of things that goes with it, the hippie chicks.
I think in general, I think the anarchy bands, they just really want to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, it's not that I don't want government, I don't want this. Like, just leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. That is my motto.
I'm going to do my thing.
Everything in life is about, please just leave me alone.
All right, so we have played nothing but bands from the United States and from the UK. So what were they doing elsewhere in the world? How about if I give you the Iggy and the Stooges from France?
He's from France?
No, this is the Iggy from France. So this is a band called Soggy from France.
France's version.
This is their version of Iggy and the Stooges.
I was like, wait a minute. No, never mind. Sorry. Yeah, threw me off there.
No, this is a band who were obviously influenced by Iggy a whole lot. And so this is a release that came out in 1981. We're moving into our last two songs, and by 1981, the second wave is kind of coming to an end, and this band in France is taking everything that influenced punk, and they are doing a true mix of metal with punk, long before a crossover existed, long before they had a label. In fact, they labeled themselves hard wave, not a thing anywhere else. I kind of
that could grow.
I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Because 1981, you had a new wave of British heavy metal going on. And so they liked that, and they liked punk, and they were punk. So they became hard wave. So we're going to play some Soggy. Now, they formed in 78. They only released a single in 1981, which is what we're going to play.
That's that French worth ethic again. They'll just retreat at the drop of a.
Let me complete my sentence here.
Cheese eating surrender monkeys.
You dicks!
Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. Now go away or I shall taunt you a second time.
Wow. Sorry. So over the last 20 years, their cult following has grown, and we've gotten a full length worth of material out of demos and things that they've done. So there is actually a vinyl out there that says Soggy on it, and it has this song that they had actually released and a bunch of other stuff that they didn't release. If you go look this band up, frontman Patrick Bertrand, and it may be Bertrand,
huh?
He looks like a maniacal mix of Iggy Pop and Charles Manson.
That's not good. That's not a good mix.
So imagine what that's like on stage.
Yeah.
And he's sort of a contortionist as well, which Iggy kind of was as well.
So it's basically my physique and worse.
And just like Iggy, in everything I've ever seen, any YouTube video or anything, he's always shirtless.
Oh, yeah, always. Wrinkly son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Mr. Raisin.
Yep, always shirtless.
Yeah.
So
at least I'm not wrinkly. I got the same physique, but I'm not quite wrinkly like him.
This guy's the same way.
I need to do way more drugs.
Shirtless contortionist. So that's what you get with Soggy as well. There is also a French documentary about this band, but I am not going to try to pronounce it because I only took French for a year.
It's called documentary.
It's Soggy on truc de I don't know. Where's Sean Geek? They speak some form of French.
Worthless year of your life. You could learn Spanish and order it, Chipotle.
What the hell did you just say?
Yes. All right. So anyway, if you know French, hey, go watch the French documentary about the band Soggy. We're just going to listen to them. So here is the single Waiting for the War from 1981.
I feel that
Okay, probably the only punk song with a fade out.
Exactly. And it was almost 4 minutes long.
Yeah, that and it hit the trifecta, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, of rock, punk, and metal.
I would agree.
There was parts in the middle there. It was chunky.
Yeah, totally.
It was right at across the line into metal. I'm just going to go ahead and say that.
Totally. That's what they were doing. They were hard wave, man.
I like it.
Really good band.
Yeah, sweet spot right now.
Very cool stuff. I mean, obviously very, very obscure because they only released a single until 20
They're on
years.
our podcast, so therefore.
Exactly. But very cool. So you can actually go out and find this on Bandcamp. They have an album. They have the vinyl. They have everything. You can go get their one album. All right, so I'm going to play one more song for you, and we're in 1981. We are about to cross the threshold into hardcore punk. And there was an LA punk band. There were several, but this is one of the LA punk bands that kind of helped bridge the gap between the second wave and what would become hardcore punk, which was Orange County, LA. You know, that's where all of these bands were. This band, the Chiefs, are cited as one of the bands to kind of bridge that gap. And they happen to be a band that I've seen live, which is kind of crazy. So the Chiefs were there with Black Flag as they were young and just becoming a band. Social Distortion, The Descendants, TSOL, Bad Religion, Circle Jerks, Adolescents, tons of other bands that we'll cover on another episode. A lot of those bands people have at least heard of because they had careers that lasted for, quite a while. Now, the bass player who was in this band, the Chiefs, he made a bunch of T-shirts for the band after they first got started.
Yeah.
And he spray painted them all. Just that's how they did it back in the day. It was just you spray painted on, you sold them at your shows, right?
Yeah, like a stencil.
Yeah, a stencil. But he wasn't the best speller. And so he spelled the Chiefs CHEIFS. And so they have been known as the Chiefs with the EI ever since because he messed up the T-shirts.
That's okay. Bless his heart. That's an easy mistake.
Yeah, so it
wasn't EEFs.
You know what? That's punk rock,
Chiefs.
man. That's punk.
That's true. Yeah, don't tell me how to spell.
Exactly. I put my E before the I.
Don't listen to the man.
So they initially only existed from 1979 to 1982. They only released an EP and a couple singles, and they were on a few compilations. So they don't have a lot of material out there, and it's interesting that people still cite them as one of the bands that kind of helped start hardcore. But if you go look at all the old flyers, which there's tons of books out there of all the old flyers that were self-made that they would poster up all over LA, you'll see the Chiefs name on a lot of those. They played a lot of those gigs. The bass player who made the mistake with the spelling error on the T-shirts, he actually left the band in 82 and became, I think, like a
English professor.
You dick! I think like a computer science guy.
Oh, seriously?
Went and yeah. And then
numbers were his thing.
Yeah.
Not letters.
Not
numbers.
letters.
Yeah.
And then he moved to Atlanta.
Really?
And in 2016, he resurrected the Chiefs in Atlanta. And I knew this band because I'm a fan of all those bands that I mentioned that these guys played with and kind of helped influence. And I had seen their name, and I saw that they were playing at the Earl opening for Death, who we've talked
right there.
about.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I didn't even know the Chiefs were still around. I didn't know that he was in Atlanta and that he really had just put them back together. But they were awesome. They played all the songs from the compilation that I had of theirs, which is, like maybe 12 songs that they ever actually released. But it was amazing. They were so good. And then in 2017, it may have been the same year, but somewhere around there, they released a 7-inch record of some new songs and some re-records, and very cool. And then 2017, Bob died of liver cancer. So that was the end. That was the end of the Chiefs. But I think the reason he had brought the Chiefs back is he knew he had cancer. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to go out and do what I did. So pretty cool story. Yeah, pretty cool story. Still. So this is where we're going to stop, but this is where we will start and pick up kind of where I got into music. What influenced me to even get into music is hardcore punk, which this is influencing. So this is the crossover from that second wave of punk into hardcore punk.
This is going to be a great re-listen for me because I think you nailed every single one of these as far as bands that I want to listen to all of it, again, like just their whole catalog.
Yeah, and there's some of these bands only have a very slight catalog.
Right,
others have a long one.
I didn't say it was a daunting task.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be a couple of hours, but that's it.
But there's lots of other bands during this period that we could also explore. But I think the next time we explore punk rock, it'll be in hardcore.
Okay,
but
I'll be ready.
Here we go. This is the Chiefs with an E, Liberty, from their one album, Holly West Crisis, 1981.
Heroic disguise as a liberty. It's all in disguise as a liberty. I'm the only one that ever sets me free. Heroic disguise as a liberty. Hey! Disguise as a liberty. I'm the only one that ever set me free.
So that's moving on into hardcore, right?
Yes, that's getting us towards hardcore.
Nice segue. You planned that. Very nice.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that starts to get in more of the area where I'll listen to it. It doesn't grab me quite as much, but it's still, especially on certain days, like very welcome.
For me, this is exactly what got me into, when I was skateboarding.
I don't skateboard as much as I never did.
Yeah, but this is the stuff that was being played that I was like, oh, what is this? I like this better than the skateboarding because I suck at this.
Hang out, look cool. That was me with kayaking back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I like to hang
hanging out with the guys.
Oh, yeah. Hold on to the paddle.
Paddling.
Like stand there with the paddle and just look around, hang out with all the girlfriends on the riverbank while they were out there freezing their asses off in the river. Yeah. That was me.
Taking photos.
Yeah, taking photos. Documenting.
Well, that second wave, man, that's what I got for you. It's been a long time since we've talked about punk rock.
5 years and a whole infestation between then and now.
That's what I got. Anything else?
Nope.
That's it.
I'm done.
We're done. We're done for the night.
I'm out of beer anyway.
I'm out of beer too. Yeah. Listen, you hear?
No, there's nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing
there.
My forehead.
All right. So maybe we should just get out of here.
You know what? First dinner wore off.
First dinner wore off. Okay.
I had it at 5, and right before the show, I was ready to. Normally, I eat second dinner right before the show, but I overdid it the first dinner, so it's just now wearing off. It's been like 3 hours since I've eaten.
Well, I think it's first dinner time or second dinner time. Sorry.
It's second dinner time.
Yeah. You go do that, and we will see you folks
later.
Chipotle?
We're saying it so you can go order Chipotle. Because it's so authentic.
What are you doing to me?